The door wasn't supposed to open. Not during system lockdown. Not while the station AI was running a classified scan. And definitely not while Commander Jake Morrison had his hands covered in blood. Yet it slid open anyway. Anna stepped inside. And froze. For the first time in 8 months, the perfect alien Maid broke. Her glowing markings flickered violently across her silver skin. Her breath hitched. Her wide, opalescent eyes locked onto Jake and didn't move. Because the calm, disciplined human she served every day looked like something else entirely. Something dangerous. Commander, what have you done? Jake didn't answer immediately. He stood near his workstation, shoulders tense, chest rising slowly. The lights above flickered as the station's emergency systems hummed. In his hands was the wooden box, but it was no longer smooth. It was cracked, splintered, stained. Not just with blood, but with something darker, something that seemed to move when you stared too long. Jake exhaled. It wasn't supposed to react like this. Anna took a step back. React? Her gaze snapped to the box again. The carved patterns she once admired, the spirals, the flowing lines, were no longer peaceful. They pulsed faintly now. Alive. Watching. You said it had no purpose, she whispered. Jake gave a quiet, bitter laugh. Yeah, I was wrong. A deep vibration rolled through Horizon Station. Not loud, but wrong. Like the structure itself had taken a breath. Anna's training screamed at her to leave. To report. To contain. But she didn't move. Because something stronger held her there. Curiosity. Fear. And something new, something dangerously close to defiance. What is it? She asked. Jake looked down at the box. Then at his hands. I think, he said slowly, I accidentally built a signal. The room went silent. A signal? Anna repeated. Jake nodded. Not electronic. Not mechanical. Something else. When I carved those patterns, I wasn't just making art. Another vibration. Stronger this time. The walls groaned. Anna's markings flickered rapidly, trying to process. That is impossible. No structure, without function, can. It's not function, Jake cut in. It's intention. That word hit her harder than anything else. Intention. Superior minds didn't work that way. Everything had purpose. Efficiency. Outcome. But this was different. Explain, she demanded, voice trembling despite her effort to stay composed. Jake hesitated. Then he said it. I wasn't just carving shapes. I was thinking, remembering, feeling. Every line, every cut, it meant something to me. Anna's breath caught. Emotion embedded into matter? That cannot influence physical reality, she said. Jake looked at her, really looked this time. Then why is the station reacting? Before she could respond, the lights died. Total darkness swallowed the room. Then, a sound. Not from the station. Not from any known system. It came from a box. A low, resonant hum. Deep. Ancient. Like something waking up after a very long sleep. Anna stumbled back. Commander, this is unauthorized phenomenon. We must report. No, Jake said sharply. The words stopped her cold. It wasn't loud, but it carried weight. Authority. And something else. Fear. If we report this, Jake continued, voice lower now, they'll take it. Study it. Lock it away. And we'll never know what it actually is. The hum grew stronger. The air felt heavier. Anna's instincts clashed violently inside her. Duty versus something new, something fragile growing within her. Then what do we do? She asked. Jake looked at the box again. Then slowly, he reached out and placed his blood-stained hand over it. The hum changed, shifted, responded. Anna's eyes widened. It reacts to you. Jake nodded. Not just me. He looked up. At us. Before she could question that, the box pulsed. A wave of energy burst outward. The walls of the room flickered. No, peeled. For a split second, Anna saw something impossible. Not the room, not the station, but something vast, endless, filled with shapes that didn't follow any geometry she understood. And in that infinite void, something noticed them. The vision snapped back. The lights returned. Anna collapsed to one knee, gasping. Her entire body shook. "Commander," she whispered, voice breaking, "something saw us." Jake didn't respond, because he already knew. He stared at the box with a new kind of fear. Not of what it was, but of what it had just invited. Another alarm blared across Horizon Station. This one was different. Not a system warning. A broadcast. Unknown origin. Untranslatable signal. Station-wide. Anna slowly looked up. Her voice barely formed the words. "You didn't just create something beautiful." Jake finished the sentence quietly. "I opened something." The box pulsed again. Stronger. Hungrier. And somewhere far beyond the stars, something began to answer. The signal did not fade. It spread. Like a ripple across still water, it moved through Horizon Station, through walls, systems, minds. Every corridor felt tighter. Every breath heavier. And at the center of it all was the box. Anna forced herself to stand, though her legs trembled. "Commander, we are no longer dealing with an anomaly," she said, her voice strained but focused. "This is contact." Jake didn't look away from the box. "I know." Another pulse. This time, the room didn't flicker. It shifted. For half a second, gravity twisted sideways. Tools slid across the table. The air warped like heat over fire. Anna grabbed the edge of the console. "The station is destabilizing." "No," Jake said quietly. He finally looked up. "It's not the station." That's when the voice came. Not through speakers. Not through translation systems. Directly into their minds. "You shape without command." Anna gasped, clutching her head. "It's inside my neural pathways. This is impossible." Jake's jaw tightened. "Stay with me. Don't panic." But the voice continued. "You create without purpose. You call without knowing." The box pulsed in rhythm with the words. Anna's markings flared wildly, her species control finally breaking under pressure. "Make it stop." Jake stepped forward and grabbed the box. The moment his skin touched it, silence. The voice vanished. The pressure lifted. Anna collapsed against the wall, breathing hard. "You stopped it." Jake stared at his hands again. "No," he whispered. "It listened." That realization hit harder than anything before. Anna slowly looked up at him. "Commander, what exactly did you put into that object?" Jake hesitated, then answered honestly. "Everything." The word lingered. "My memories, my thoughts, the things I miss, the things I lost." His voice grew quieter. "My grandfather, Earth, the feeling of making something that doesn't need permission to exist." Anna felt something shift inside her again. That same forbidden sensation. Longing. "But how can emotion create this?" she asked. Jake shook his head. "Maybe it's not creating. Maybe it's connecting." Before she could respond, the station alarms changed. A new voice echoed through the corridors. "Emergency protocol activated. All personnel report to Central Command. Unknown signal breach detected." Anna froze. "They've detected it." Jake exhaled slowly.
"Yeah."
"And they're not going to ask nicely." As if on cue, the door slid open again. But this time it wasn't an accident. 3 figures stepped in.
Tall.
Armored. Precision in every movement. Zaffron overseers. Anna's entire body stiffened instantly. Her posture corrected. Her emotions buried under years of conditioning. "Overseer unit," she whispered. The lead figure stepped forward. Its glowing eyes locked onto Jake. Then the box. "Commander Morrison," it said coldly, "you are in possession of an unauthorized construct broadcasting an interdimensional signal." Jake didn't move. "Yeah," he said simply. The overseer tilted its head slightly. "You will surrender the object immediately." Silence filled the room. Anna's heart pounded. This was the moment. Protocol demanded compliance. Immediate. Absolute. Jake looked at the box. Then at Anna. And something passed between them. A silent understanding. He stepped back. And shook his head.
"No."
The word hit the room like an explosion. Anna's breath caught. The overseers froze for a fraction of a second. Not because of the refusal, but because of how easily he said it. You are refusing a direct command, the overseer stated. Jake's voice stayed calm.
Yeah.
Noncompliance will result in force. I figured. Anna's mind spiraled. This was insanity. Humans were physically weaker, politically fragile, outnumbered. They didn't defy the Federation. But Jake wasn't hesitating. Commander, she whispered urgently, they will terminate you. Jake didn't look away from the overseers. Then I guess they'll have to try. The air changed again. Not from the box. From Jake. Something in him shifted. Not rage. Not fear. Something deeper. Resolve. The overseers raised their weapons. Energy hummed at lethal levels. Anna stepped forward, without thinking. Wait. All eyes turned to her. Even the overseers paused. That alone was shocking. A Zaffron interrupting command protocol? Unheard of. Her voice trembled, but she didn't stop. The object is responding to him, she said. If you remove it by force, you may escalate the signal. The overseer studied her. You are suggesting risk to Federation stability. Yes, she said. It wasn't entirely a lie, but it wasn't entirely protocol either. It was something else.
Choice.
The overseer turned back to Jake. Then you will deactivate it. Jake gave a slow breath. I don't know how. The overseer's weapon glowed brighter. Then you are no longer necessary. Anna's eyes widened. No. But before the weapon fired, the box pulsed. Violently. The room bent. Reality cracked again. But this time, it didn't close. A fracture hung in the air.
Dark.
Endless. Watching. The overseers stepped back for the first time. Not out of strategy. Out of instinct. Because something was coming through. The voice returned. Stronger. Clearer. The makers who feel. The species that breaks design. You have been found. Jake didn't move. Anna couldn't breathe. The fracture widened. And from the darkness beyond, something reached back. Not a body. Not a form. A presence. Ancient. Curious. And focused entirely on one thing. Humanity. Jake whispered, barely audible. What did I just invite? The answer came instantly. Witness. The station trembled. The overseers lowered their weapons. Because for the first time in their existence, they weren't in control. And neither was Jake. The fracture did not close. It widened. Slowly at first, then with terrifying intent. The air inside the room stretched thin, as if reality itself was being pulled toward that dark opening. Lights flickered, metal groaned, and somewhere deep in Horizon Station, entire systems began to fail. No one moved. Not the overseers. Not Anna. Not even Jake. Because whatever was on the other side was looking directly at them. Witness begins. The voice was no longer just sound. It was presence.
Wait.
Meaning forced into their minds faster than thought. Anna collapsed again, her body shaking uncontrollably. Her species had never been designed for this. Never meant to experience something beyond logic, beyond structure. Commander, she whispered weakly, it's too much. Jake felt it too. The pressure. The infinite scale of it. But he didn't fall. He stepped forward. Toward the fracture. Jake, don't. Anna cried, reaching out.
He stopped just short of the edge.
The darkness inside wasn't empty. It was layered. Endless patterns folding into each other, like the carvings on the box, but alive. Breathing. Watching. And then, he understood. Not fully, but enough. This thing, Jake said slowly. It's not here to destroy us. The overseer snapped. You cannot possibly comprehend. It's curious, Jake interrupted. Silence. Even the entity seemed to pause. Anna stared at him. Curious about what? Jake looked down at the box in his hand. About us. The entity responded instantly. Correct. The word didn't echo. It settled, like truth being placed into reality. The overseers shifted uneasily. Curiosity was not a concept they associated with power. Power controlled. Power dominated. But this was something else. Jake took a breath. You felt it, didn't you? He said quietly. When I made this, I wasn't following a rule. I wasn't optimizing anything. I just created. Anna's eyes widened slightly. The entity pulsed. You shape without command. You choose without design. Jake nodded.
Yeah.
That's what we do. Another pulse. Stronger. The fracture expanded slightly. This violates all patterns. The overseer finally spoke again, more forceful now. This is a threat. Commander Morrison, step away. That entity is analyzing weaknesses. No, Jake said firmly. That word again.
Simple.
Unbreakable. It's not looking for weakness, he continued. It's trying to understand something it's never seen before. Anna slowly rose to her feet. Her voice was soft. Freedom. Jake glanced at her.
Yeah.
The word lingered between them. Freedom to create. Freedom to choose. Freedom to be inefficient and still exist. The entity reacted. The fracture trembled. Define freedom. The question hit like a wave. Even the overseers went still. Define it? How do you define something your entire species was built without? Anna looked at Jake. For the first time, not as a commander, but as something else. A teacher. Jake thought for a moment. Then he did something no one expected.
He knelt down.
Right there, in front of the fracture. In front of the overseers. In front of something ancient beyond comprehension. He placed the wooden box on the ground, picked up the carving tool, and began to carve. Anna's breath caught. Commander, what are you doing? Jake didn't look up. Answering the question. The tool pressed into the wood.
Slow.
Careful. Intentional. Each movement steady despite the chaos around him. The entity went silent. Watching. Learning. Jake spoke as he worked. Freedom isn't efficient. It doesn't follow rules. It doesn't need permission. Another line carved. It's choosing to create something, even when there's no reason to. Another curve. No command. No purpose. Just because you want it to exist. Anna stepped closer. Mesmerized. The overseers didn't move. For the first time, they had no protocol for what they were witnessing. Jake finished the final line and turned the box. Inside the lid was a new carving. Simple. Imperfect. But unmistakable. A small, abstract shape. Anna tilted her head. What is it? Jake smiled faintly. It doesn't have to be anything. The entity pulsed violently. The fracture surged. But this time, it wasn't unstable. It was responding. Creation without function. Choice without directive. Existence without necessity. The voice grew deeper. Heavier. This is unknown. Jake stood up slowly. Yeah, he said. That's us. Silence. Then, the pressure vanished. Completely. The fracture stopped expanding. The darkness began to pull back. The entity was leaving, but not in anger, not in fear, in acceptance. Species designated. Human. Status unbounded. The overseers stiffened. Anna's eyes filled with something new. Hope. The entity gave one final pulse. We will not interfere. We will observe. We will learn. And then, it was gone. The fracture collapsed. The room snapped back to normal. Lights stabilized. Systems rebooted. Silence filled the space.
Heavy. Real. Alive.
Anna slowly turned to Jake. Her voice barely a whisper. You taught it. Jake shook his head gently. No. He looked at the box. At the imperfect carving. I just showed it who we are. The overseers said nothing, because for the first time in their existence, they had witnessed something they could not control. And worse, something they could not replicate. Anna stepped closer to Jake, her hands trembling slightly. Commander, she said, will you continue teaching me? Jake smiled.
Yeah.
He handed her the carving tool. Let's make something that doesn't need a reason to exist. Anna took it carefully, reverently, and for the first time in her engineered life, she chose. Not because she had to, but because she wanted to, and somewhere far beyond the stars. Something ancient watched, not with dominance, not with power, but with wonder. Because among all the structured civilizations of the galaxy, only one species had ever discovered the most dangerous, beautiful force of all, the freedom to create.